I have boobs.
Remember when we first met John McClane? Argyle picked him up from the plane and took him down the Nakatomi Tower at the Christmas party. And the terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis. And with a little help from Alan, John McClane kicked ass.
Welcome back to Shat the Movies, the podcast where we answer the question, were the movies we loved when we were growing up really that good? Have you ever caught yourself thinking, why don't they make movies like they used to? Can you still remember spending your Friday night searching for the perfect movie rental at Blockbuster Video? Do you know what Blockbuster Video is? If you answered yes, then this is the podcast for you. I'm one of your hosts, Gene Lyons, and alongside me are my co-hosts, Ash Sill Schlafly.
Hi, y'all.
And Big D Dick Ebert.
Good evening.
And each week, we three take a look back in time and decide if our favorite films still hold up. The movies we cover are chosen by you, the listeners, who generously commission the films you love. If you'd like to see all the movies we have covered, will cover, or want to choose one for yourself, please visit shatthemovies.com and have a look. At the end of each podcast, we will provide you, the audience, with the number of wipes each movie would take to get off your respective butts. So thank you so much for listening. If you have not already, hit the subscribe button and share with a friend. That's how we help the podcast grow. Additionally, subscribe to our sister podcast, Shat on TV, where we review TV series such as Westworld, Taboo, Game of Thrones, True Detective, Watchmen, Lovecraft Country, and we currently are doing American Gods Season 3. Check it out. Find all that information and past episodes at shatontv.com. And finally, if you'd like to hang out with us live in video chat all week long, follow and subscribe to our Twitch channel, shatthemovies.com/Twitch, where we play video games, host watch parties, and end each week on Friday with a Shappy Hour cocktail party. That's 9 p.m. Eastern, Fridays, shatthemovies.com/Twitch. All that being said, Big D, what movie are we reviewing today?
So this week, Gene, I think we're finally getting to a genre and a type of film that is underserved by Shat the Movies. So it was a nice change of pace. I'm very happy that one of our listeners, Patrick, decided to commission the 1995 science fiction horror film, Species.
Well, and Patrick wrote in and he said, "Dear Shat team, I should explain. A few years ago, about 20 years after I saw a VHS copy of Species alone, late at night, wide-eyed, and with the volume at near mute, I found out I was infertile. Little guys don't swim. Strangely, my first thought was, damn, Syl wouldn't have fucked me. I only have one explanation after much reflection. Like a duck imprinting on the wrong mother, my guess is that my balls dropped that night. I was around 10. At the sight of Syl naked and lusting, and then promptly carried themselves permanently when Syl mutated into an H.R. Giger nightmare. Like the ending to Arthur C. Clarke's 9 Billion Names of God, when the stars start to blink out one by one in the night sky, but for sperm. That was the beginning of the end of 2 entire family lineages. Thanks for all you do, Patrick. P.S. Rest in peace, Arcibo."
I want to point out that Arecibo is not Patrick's name for his balls or his sperm. It's a research facility. Well, Patrick, thank you so much for sharing this very, very personal and yet comedic. I hope this was meant to make us laugh and not that, because read dramatically, like, this is deeply painful.
Well, I'm going to tell you, this was a last-minute submission. I contacted him yesterday and said, hey, we're recording. And he started off by like, oh, I'm so excited. So I don't think this has been a traumatic event in his life.
Okay, I'm relieved. Well, thanks, Patrick, for commissioning Species. It is a 1995 science fiction horror film starring Natasha Henstridge in her film debut role, Ben Kingsley, Michael Madsen, Alfred Molina, Forrest Whitaker, and Mary Margaret Helgenberger. The film follows scientists and government agents who try to track down a seductive alien-human hybrid before she successfully mates with a human male. The film was originally pitched as a police procedural entitled The Message, but was rewritten when studios weren't interested. The extraterrestrial aspect of Syl's character was created by H.R. Giger, who is also responsible for the beings from the Alien franchise, combining practical models and computer-generated imagery. Giger felt that the film and the character were too similar to Alien, so he pushed for script changes. Species was met with mixed reviews from critics who felt that the film's execution did not match the ambition of its premise, but nevertheless, it turned out to be a box office success, grossing $113 million, partly due to the hype surrounding Henstridge's topless scenes. It spawned a franchise which includes one theatrical sequel, Species 2, as well as two direct-to-TV sequels, Species 3 and Species The Awakening. Species was adapted into a novel by Yvonne Navarro and two comic book series by Dark Horse Comics. So Big D, Ash, we always ask where you were and what your memories are of Species. I can honestly say that this movie's cover art and its B-movie premise always seemed so corny to me that despite the boobs, I never watched it.
Yeah, I don't know. Like most of the sci-fi I saw in this time period of my life, I saw it for the first time with my dad. He loved anything sci-fi, anything alien. And we had this tradition where we would go to Blockbuster every weekend and we'd pick out any sci-fi movie we could find that kind of looked like it was somewhere riding that line between being either really scary, but also kind of just really bad. So we rented it. And I remember watching it with him that we were laughing at parts. We thought other parts were pretty cool. And I don't know. I was really excited to watch this again. He was in town this weekend randomly for Finn's birthday. And so we watched it together again with my mom complaining the whole time about the topless scenes. So, you know, it was a moment.
In 1995, I was in the target range. This thing should have been screaming at me. It's aliens. It looks like it's space. You have Natasha looking yummy, even though she's kind of like mutated. This should have been something I watched, but for some reason, I have no idea why. There's no reason I should not have run out to the Blockbuster, to the theater, and seen this.
I'm so concerned for your sexuality, Big D, because now we've heard that you saw Michelle Pfeiffer on the cover of a movie looking scared/horny. And now you're talking about Natasha Henstridge is kind of a mutant, but it's sexy.
It does, and I'm not going to be ashamed to say it. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. I would have had sex with her when she transformed at the end. She wouldn't have had to surprise me. So we'll get into that later.
I want to get into it now. Let's hit the trailer.
In January, a message from an extraterrestrial source was picked up at the Parkes Observatory in Australia. A new sequence of DNA, friendly instructions on how to combine it with ours.
This growth is amazing.
The decision was made to terminate the experiment.
He's breaking out!
She escaped. We have a serious emergency on our hands. I want a team to track her, hunt her down.
You created a monster, now you want us to kill it.
We decided to make it female so that it would be more docile and controllable.
More docile and controllable. I guess you guys don't get out much.
She wants to have a baby.
She'll kill anyone that gets in her way.
I wouldn't hurt you. Yes, you would. Just don't know it yet.
She could have a dozen babies. She could lay 1,000 eggs.
Something's wrong.
Open the damn door!
Oh, God.
Well, during the search for extraterrestrial life, scientists received transmissions from an alien source on how to create endless fuel and how to splice alien genetic code with human DNA. A government team led by Xavier Fitch goes forward with a genetic experiment and produces a girl named Syl, who looks like a normal human, but develops into a 12-year-old in 3 months. Syl's violent outbursts during her sleep make the scientists consider her a threat, and they try to kill her using cyanide gas, but she escapes. So this movie opens up with really cheesy title screen. It looks worse than the movie is. And I was like, oh no, we've got trouble here. But then we go and we see the familiar sight of SETI, right? You see the big telescope and starts talking about SETI. And for those of you who are younger than us, I mean, I'm in my 40s, Big D's in his 40s. Ash is getting there. For those of you who are younger than us, you might not remember SETI, but it was a huge deal when we were kids. So basically, it was this search using all kinds of telescopes around the Earth and computers to listen for alien life. And a lot of us were really dorking out about it. I actually even volunteered with SETI at home. And what SETI at home would do is use the processing power of computers when they were dormant in your home to help with that search. Sadly, SETI at home did shut down. It was one of the many casualties of 2020, and it is no longer a thing.
And Gene, in the intro, in the letter that Patrick sent, he says, "Rest in peace, Arecibo." That is the observatory that we see in GoldenEye, where they have the final showdown with, what was it? Onatop? What was her name? Onatop?
Onatop? It was definitely not Onatop.
What was her name? Yes, it was. It was the Russian girl.
Yeah, she like crushed people with her legs.
Yeah, with her thighs. Yeah. So whatever it was, at the end of GoldenEye, we see this. I think they used it also in Contact. You know it instantly when you see it. In December, it collapsed. The wires broke, and first part of the centerpiece collapsed. And then, of course, they started filming it, and there is actually video of it. So if you want to go out there and look at it, it is sad. It's like a movie friend died.
You're right. It is Onatop. Femke.
Yes.
You're right.
Yes.
Never mind the rest of Puerto Rico. It also collapsed in 2020. That's not, I shouldn't laugh at that, but seriously, Puerto Rico had a really rough year.
They did. Yeah, Gene, I also volunteered for SETI at home. I was super obsessed with this as a kid. I used to track star charts and stuff. Huge nerd from the beginning, but I will say, once you get past the title cards, we get into like the plot of this movie, and we see a very young Michelle Williams. I had forgotten that she was in this. This is even before like Dawson Creek fame. And so here she is, and she, is this little bitty girl, and she looks really sweet. And then they gas her. Like they drop these cyanide tablets in there to gas her. And you've got Ben Kingsley using his Academy Award, type acting to be like, I'm sorry. And then she jumps out through the glass, and the movie begins. And I remembered this scene, but I didn't remember feeling so badly for her. I mean, first of all, why did they have to gas her? Like, you'd think there would be easier ways to kill her than to let her know that they're killing her. And then she goes off and she gets on this train and she's all alone. And I don't know, was I just really sheltered in like the 80s and 90s? Because I didn't travel by myself, and like nobody was concerned that she's on an Amtrak alone going to Los Angeles.
Oh, yeah. I did it all the time. So your parents would basically put you on the plane. They're like, okay, your aunt's going to be picking you up at the airport. Because this is back when people could pick you up at the gate. So there was nowhere you could go when you were on the flight. You'd end up there. And same with trains. It would be like, okay, you're getting on the train here. I mean, I would normally do like Long Island into the city or something like that. But traveling by yourself as a 12-year-old was no big deal.
Yeah, and I want to talk about Ben Kingsley. He gives this movie immediate credibility to me. He is a known actor. He's done a lot of great work. So I'm like, oh shit, he's serious. And you're completely right. This is an intelligent being. She speaks English. And these dudes are like walking up with cyanide canisters with like big skulls on it. Why don't you try to hide what it is? This poor girl in the chamber. And of course he's got the tears, and the two, whatever they are, like the CIA, NSA, whatever government agency they're from, they don't care. They're like, yes, terminate it, right? I found myself saying, fuck humanity. I'm immediately on her side. I want her to get pregnant, wipe out humanity. I just don't care.
Well, and speaking of Ben Kingsley, like, why is he in this? Like, Ben Kingsley was at the height of his, the part of his career where he was the most respected. I just don't understand how some casting decisions got made in the 90s. And apparently, he was not their original choice for Fitch. It was Pierce Brosnan. You mentioned GoldenEye a second ago. That's the reason he couldn't be in this film, is because his schedule for GoldenEye overlapped with his schedule for Species. And I think he would have made a bit more sense. But I do agree. Ben Kingsley does. I mean, he elevates everything that he's in. He could be in like a Hot Pocket commercial and he would elevate that because he's a phenomenal actor. But you've also got Michael Madsen in this, who is exactly the same in this as he is in every other movie that he's ever been in. You have a weirdly, strangely sexy young Alfred Molina. You've got this terribly acted role by Forrest Whitaker. I mean, it's very strange because this is clearly a B film, but they've got an A-list cast that's like really overqualified for this film. And I thought that was interesting.
Okay, I call Big D's sexual preferences into question earlier in this pod, I want to talk about the fact that Ash has now called out Jim Carrey as Ace Ventura as being hot, and Alfred Molina in Species. He's got like chipped, crooked teeth. He's wall-eyed. I can't tell if he's big or small. Like he's just shapes. What the fuck is going on, Ash?
He's very big. He's clearly big. And secondly, he's very smart. I am highly attracted to intelligence, and he's super smart. I mean, come on. He goes way downhill by the time he's Doc Ock. Like, he doesn't look like Doc Ock in the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man films. He looks a lot better in this. He's got kind of sexy hair.
I mean, talk about crazy aging, though. Alfred Molina, between this and Boogie Nights, it was like 2 years, and he looks like a totally different person.
He did. He had a hard 2 years.
And Forrest Whitaker, I actually wrote down he is a great empath. I thought he was a good psychic. I thought he added to the team. He's mysterious. He's looking around the room. I thought he carried it.
That's how you play an empath. Be mysterious and look around the room. But no, Big D, I agree. I was crazy about this cast. It was very textbook. Like, they're like, this is the killer guy, and this is the scientist guy, and this is the soft guy, and, you know, this is the doctor lady, right? But I liked the whole team. Like, it was formulated. It was very A-team, but it worked.
Yeah, it's Avengers, you assemble. And they all get together, and they play off of each other well, and they're all credible actors.
And Ash, I want to point out that Michael Madsen was different in this movie because he took his sunglasses off.
Oh.
So
that's
there
true.
you go.
Didn't cut off anybody's ear, too, you know.
Before we move on, I want to coin a new term for Shat, and that's Gene's law of technology. It's something I noticed while watching this movie. The closer a movie gets to the end of the 1990s, the smaller the window of the technology's relevance in American culture. So if you think about it, like when we do movies like 80s movies, things that you see in 80s movies like landline phones, cassette tapes, cars, those were around for a while, like decades. And then things in the 90s were around for like a year. Like in this movie, we see flip phones, portable TVs, and those credit card copiers are like,
yeah.
Those things were around for like 2 years. What the fuck is going on? Is it just now when we watch movies from the 2000s, it'll be like, that's so 2015.
I think it was just obviously everything speeds up. Technology and advancements exponentially. Like it seemed like it was 2 or 3 years between that giant Nokia phone to like the Razor. It seemed really quick.
But the embarrassing thing as a 40-year-old is when she pulled out the portable TV, I was like, what is DVD? Is Laserdisc? What is? And then it's like got an antenna. I was like, is television? Okay. Like, I don't even remember in my own lifetime. It's terrifying.
Mm.
Well, the government assembles a team composed of anthropologist Dr. Stephen Arden, molecular biologist Dr. Laura Baker, empath Dan Smithson, and mercenary Preston Lennox to track and destroy Syl. Syl matures rapidly into an adult in her early 20s and makes her way to Los Angeles. Her body strength, regenerative ability, and intelligence make tracking her extremely difficult. The scientists fear she may mate with a human male and produce offspring that could eliminate the human race. Syl is intent on producing offspring as soon as possible, and she kills several people to prevent them from notifying the authorities or simply to use their clothing.
So as per usual, I have questions. So we know that Syl's aging. We know that she's aging quickly. You know, she's a week later, she's a full-grown fetus. You know, then she's 3 months and she's like 10 years old. And so my question is, like, if she's aging that quickly, wouldn't she be like 100 and like dead in just a few days? Because if that's the case, I feel like they didn't need this insane search. They could have just waited. She'll be like in her sexual prime for all of 72 hours. She'll hit menopause and then the movie ends, right?
Yeah, but that's just assuming that she's aging fast. But I don't think that's what's happening here. I think she's approaching adulthood fast. Let us learn, Ash, from our brother, the tortoise. A tortoise can reach adulthood in like 15 years, right? So they turn into adults sooner than we do, but they live to be 150. And animals' speed towards sexual maturity is not necessarily an indicator of its lifespan.
Ashley, this is why you're not in charge of the security of the nation. You're saying that Natasha let her go a couple days in L.A., and you think someone like that would have a difficult time mating?
Well, she does the entire movie, which is kind of the plot of it. But I think the other thing here is that she has no tortoise DNA. She's got human DNA. So, you know, she's menstruating. They check that out. Eventually, she's going to stop menstruating like all women do.
I do want to ask, Ash, I didn't intend to talk about this, but since you brought it up, they find her menstrual blood on the toilet. Is that normal just on the seat?
I mean, it is normal, I guess.
And does it look like that?
Well, on what day? I think that she, I think new girls who've not ever had their period before, I'm sure that could happen. It would be weird if a grown-ass woman were doing that. But my question is, she's just shoved her tongue through some dude's head. Like, how do you know that blood is menstrual blood? Like, where does that come from?
Where does it come from? Where does it go? I got to ask how Scylla's clean all the fucking time. Like, does she groom like a cat? Does she like lick the blood off? Because she kills that hobo and the hobo's jacket is like perfectly clean. I know she took it out of his bag, but what hobo is carrying around like clean denim? Then she kills that train conductor, but the uniform is then, yes, it's big, but it's clean. She's like creating these bloodbaths everywhere she goes, but her hair and clothes are always immaculate.
I'm wondering if it's some kind of like trick she does with the morphing. Because she goes alien, she goes back, her eyes change. She starts to like, when she's hooking up, she gets those spikes in her back. So I'm wondering if the skin, it almost like sheds like a snake, or it's just always kind of, she can manipulate it to be clean.
Oh, I get it. So like, yeah, so her hair is not necessarily hair that has been washed and groomed. It's actually just new hair.
Yeah. That's just a guess. I mean, they tell us a lot of things in the movie, but they don't tell us that. And strangely, we want to know.
Yeah, if only the movie answered any questions we had. And I think the other thing, too, I got really annoyed in watching this because I feel like there was a bunch of dudes who sat around in a writing room and commiserating about like their girlfriends or their wife's desire to have babies. And they're like, man, all these women have baby fever. And so they wrote a whole movie about the fear of women having baby fever because poor Syl, right? She's just looking for a good time. She's looking to have a baby. But of course, she's got to be a murderer and a scary alien because women and their biological clocks are scary and inconvenient.
No. This is what happened is they wanted to write Syl as a dude. And then they're like, okay, we're going to make him a dude. And he's walking around LA just trying to fuck. But then this movie would just be called Guy in LA. That's what we do.
And you missed it, Ash. The bigger topic would have been how many women are pregnant in LA? She's walking around the train stations like pregnant chick, pregnant lady. Everyone's talking about it. So I just think it's to get her to the point to realize, what her purpose is.
To have babies, because that's all women want, right? Or
she's an alien. She doesn't know what she
I'm sorry, you're right. They bred her to be a woman because they're more docile and easy to control and just want babies.
I'm going to play devil's advocate here. They had male and female embryos. For all we know, the male is capable of getting pregnant as well. And maybe the male would have also gestated and menstruated. So I think you're just basing this argument without enough information.
Did they have male embryos? I thought they specifically said they only did female embryos.
They actually chose to grow the female because it's more docile. For all we know, the male could have a vagina. Who knows?
Well, I would be all about a movie about an alien man that menstruates. That sounds fantastic.
Have I got the movie for you? Ash, you mentioned earlier Syl was aging at an alarming rate. She also learns very, very quickly, but I feel like the learning curves might be different for alien human hybrids because for like a full day, she's absolutely baffled by money. She just keeps handing like loads of bills to people and she's like, money?
I'm foreign.
But then she gets a car and she's fine driving a car around LA. Listen, I've been driving all my life. I don't know how to fucking drive a car in LA. But then she doesn't know how gasoline works. But then elevator, she's like, oh yeah, I got it.
Okay, so listen, if anything, the movie, it respects our time. A lesser movie would have showed us, they would have showed us a bunch of nerds in a SETI, like a computer room. They would have gotten the code. Then there would have been some generals debating, we shouldn't grow those embryos. We don't know where it came from. This movie jumps in with both feet, and I respect it. We're off and running. And they do explain it with some good exposition. She's a quick learner, yes. They make a fact to show us that she's paying attention to every little thing that people are doing. So she sees the money. She's like, okay, that's money. She sees the credit card getting swiped when she runs away when the woman says you're going to pay for those licorice. She learns about sex from TV and the advertisers. When the dude in the BMW is driving, she's watching him. it explains everything. They explain why when she's in the club, why she chooses to turn down that first guy that she could mate with and why she killed the girl in the bathroom. The movie is doing a lot to get us going quick, and I respect it.
I want to go back to something you said a second ago, Big D, which is that Forrest Whitaker did a great job as the empath because he looked mysterious and just kind of looked around and observed. And this was the most unintentionally hilarious part of the movie for me because he says the most obvious fucking things. Like, he reminds me of the fortune tellers in the French Quarter that are like, I feel like you've been in a relationship before, you know, like it's like the most obvious thing. And so some of my favorites are when they walk into the train and they see the chrysalis and this woman is like shredded on the floor and he says, something bad happened here. And later in the film, you know, he would say something like, something's wrong when there's a giant creature growing in a tiny room that two other scientists are locked in. I thought it was really, really funny and probably the best part of the movie.
My favorite is when he discovered the BMW abandoned and out of gas, and he's sitting in it, and he's like doing the Nick Cage like handshake thing. He's like, she walked. Yes, she did. The car is out of gas. That's what you do.
Yeah, and I feel bad for saying this, but I figured out now why I think he looked good for the role. He's got that wandering eye. So I think that played into it to where I was like, is he looking at me? Is he looking at something off camera? That added to the mystery.
Yeah, he and Alfred Molina both have eyes that are all over the place. It's just a googly eye movie. Well, Syl tries to mate with Robbie, but she rejects him for being diabetic. He tries to rape her, prompting her to kill him by puncturing his skull with her tongue. She then tries to mate with John Kerry, not the John Kerry, but a guy named John Kerry, a man she meets after a car accident. They are interrupted by Preston and Laura, and Syl kills Carrie, morphing into her alien form and fleeing naked into the forest. She then kidnaps a woman to assume her identity. Syl later is seen by Dan, prompting a car chase where she fakes her death by crashing the car, which she had previously filled with gas containers, into a high-voltage transformer, using the kidnapped woman as a stand-in for her own body.
So in this part of the movie, we get, you know, a fairly tense scene where they try to enact the fertilization and try to figure out what is really happening when this human and alien DNA are forming, and that we get lots of science jargon and the random nerdy people you mentioned, Big D, that just kind of walk in and out. And I think it's pretty interesting here, though, how different this scene goes because, you know, on one hand, when Ben Kingsley had it done, you get the sexy, you know, Natasha Henstridge with the one egg. And then here you get this gross, dark, dirty, sudsy bubble thing. Like, do y'all remember those pills that you'd put in the water and they turn into the big sponges? That's what this reminded me of. And why does the dirty, spongy stuff turn into a cut off lizard tail? And also, why is there always in a movie like this a room where there's a button that will burn the place down in 2 minutes if need be?
I'll step in here as Gene Lyons, sci-fi lawyer. The camera went out inconveniently, and so the DNA was actually injected incorrectly into the egg. And to be clear here, in this part of the movie, it was Dr. Baker's idea to create a version of Syl that doesn't have the human facade over it, right? That they want to see what's lurking in there so we can learn its vulnerabilities. So that's what they made the mistake of doing. They weren't trying to build another human. They were trying to figure out like what the pure alien form was. As for the burn down room, I think we saw why. I don't know why Ben Kingsley wouldn't open the fucking door in the first like 5 seconds.
Why? Because you don't know. It's just like in any alien movie. Look at we're going to talk about aliens later in Alien. You don't let them back into the ship. You don't let them out of there. Instead of having one of these things running around, you could have two. So the proper thing, is as bad as it is for the movie, would have been to roast all three of them.
Right. But in Alien, there's a face hugger, right? So you know there's probably a problem here. And my question about the room is, why don't you just have a button that makes it incinerate? Why does it have to have a 2-minute countdown? I mean,
that's
it's just
ridiculous,
in all of these movies. It's hilarious. But one of the things that has held up incredibly well in this movie from the 1990s are Natasha Henstridge's boobs. They are absolutely amazing. They are perfect. I get why young guys flocked to see a B sci-fi horror movie. And I thought she was just topless like once. She's not. She's topless so many times in this movie. They truly are maybe the most perfect boobs I think we've seen so far in Shat the movies.
Now, Ash, we learned from the early days of Shappy Hour and running our Discord not to call perfect boobs. We have to call them consensus boobs, meaning if you asked 100 men and women to describe the perfect boob, this would be the overwhelming description of a perfect boob. These boobs are so good that the filmmakers, they're like, how do we introduce them? Like, I know, we'll have her fly upside down out of a fucking chrysalis covered in goo, and they still look sexy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think you guys are selling her short, honestly. She is perfect. There's nothing I could see wrong with her. She was my ideal girl back in 95. And today, like you said, the boobs are perfect. The face is perfect. The body's perfect. I can't believe she did not become a bigger star.
If you don't look like Natasha Henstridge, we're not judging you.
No.
You're beautiful in your own way. She's beautifuler.
It's just a different way. You're just beautiful in a different way.
I have boobs and I can say these are better than mine. Like they're like top tier boobs. Like there's a reason why, like I know all these women don't want to do sex scenes. If I had her boobs, I would do every sex scene possible to remember what they look like before children suck the life out of them. They're perfect.
And to show you that the movie makers realized how perfect these boobs were, they turned them into a weapon later in the movie.
Yep.
These are weaponized boobs.
Mm-hmm. And they still look good.
Oh, they still look great.
Now, something that didn't look good is Robbie's apartment. So she goes back with Robbie, and this is such like a classic, like mid-90s apartment. He's got that cheesy ass artwork on the wall. He snaps his fingers and the music kicks in. And I don't know, maybe it's because I didn't hook up with people in the 90s at this time because I was 12. But he goes in and he takes a shower right away when he comes home, which I thought was super weird. That has never happened to me. I do think that it was nice of him to offer her to take her own shower at some point, but then he tries to rape her. And I get it. Like, I get why she kills him. It has nothing at all with him being a diabetic. I think he's an absolute tool. And in this scene, we get another great line from Dan of, well, what happened here? And he looks at the guy whose head is blown off and says, she was angry.
I could not disagree more. I thought he was being polite. He said, could you believe how hot it was in there? He's sweaty. He's trying to actually make himself smell good for potential sex. And it's also an opportunity for her to declare her intent. He's in the shower. He says, hey, come on in. So he's become clean, and he's also initiated sex in a way to overcome that awkward moment.
The consent that he vehemently denies immediately after getting out of the shower. I don't think that was his intent, was to assume, you know, whether or not she wanted to do it. I mean, have you guys done this? Do you take showers when you bring girls home by yourselves?
Before sex, if I'm stinky, yes.
I don't even have to be stinky. Like, okay, so my transition from clubbing to sex back in the days when I made transitions from clubbing to sex, it was always showering or a massage. It's not a bad thing. Like, Big D's kind of on the right path here because it's a good way to feel things out. Mm-hmm. Listen, if you go goth clubbing, you got knee high, grip fast. Mm-hmm. Maybe you're wearing heels, your fucking feet and your legs are sore and stuff like that. You just ask, you know, do you want a massage? Do you want to take a shower? And if they say no, that's totally cool. We can make a freshetta and watch a movie. That's totally cool. But what you don't want is if she came over like Syl to bang and I'm like, yeah, let me make you a pizza and let's watch a movie. You don't want to be the guy that she tells her friends, I went over there to fuck him and he made me a frozen pizza.
Yeah, that's completely not the way you want to go. And Ashley, thank goodness we had a movie this week that we didn't have to hear you complain about the police work.
That was Gene, not me. Gene's the one that's complaining about the police work.
Yeah, I'm very, very particular about my police procedurals.
It was not me. He's the one complaining about not sharp enough arrows on maps and Silence of the Lambs.
I apologize. You're correct. This movie has some of the best police work. There is no wrong lead that they follow. Everything is the correct path to take. So at first, their first clue, she must have gotten on the train that came through. Okay, let's check the train. Oh, dead hobo. We got DNA. That leads to Amtrak, which leads to dead conductor, which leads to credit card from dead conductor, which leads directly to the motel, which leads directly to the club around the corner because the guy at the motel tells them. This leads them to the guy who takes her to the house in the hills. That leads to his BMW, the traffic accident, the hotel, the nice guy's house.
John Kerry.
These cops are fast and do not follow one bad lead.
Yeah, they don't follow one bad lead, but also everybody in this movie is just giving them leads voluntarily. Like motel owner John Malkovich guy. The lady at the hospital working the desk, they just like give random scientists identifying information about a patient, what she was in for, who paid for it, what the credit card number was, what that guy's address was. I'm like, is this fucking for real? But then I realized it's 1995, and technically the Health Information Portability and Accountability Act wasn't passed until 1996. So maybe you could get this information. It still feels wrong to me.
Well, and I get that maybe they are doing good police work, but everyone is strangely unbothered in this film. Like, they're kind of chilling, like they're drinking. They check into like a really incredibly expensive hotel for cops to stay in. And then you got Michael Madsen where they're like, well, what should I tell him? That he's about to copulate with an alien being. Like, I mean, it just, the tonality was a bit weird, right?
Dude, what about the fact that there's a woman who's got her head exploded in the bathroom of that club? Next day, that shit's packed. It did not affect their door at all. They still packed the place.
I mean, if the coronavirus pandemic has taught us anything, it's that you could have 100 dead bodies in a club and people would still come back the next day and be like, you can't control me. Got to live my life.
I don't care about exploded heads. My head ain't going to explode.
If you don't like exploding heads, just stay home.
Hell yeah. Exploding heads ain't real. That ain't real.
Now, as she mentioned, Michael Madsen, he is the same guy in every movie, but he's a great on-screen badass. As you mentioned, he made Reservoir Dogs, Dancing Around and Stuck in the Middle with You. In this movie, first of all, the dude's movement is so stiff, and he is the goofiest action star. He pulls out all the tropes in this movie. When he's got a gun out, he's always got his finger on the trigger. When he goes into rooms to like clear the room, he always goes backward in the room, which you always see like people doing on detective shows. He literally at some parts rolls into the scene. Like the camera is showing one part, he comes rolling into it. And then when he's pointing a gun at anything, he doesn't hold on to the gun. He holds the gun outright and then he braces his own forearm, sometimes on the bottom, usually on the top. But my absolute favorite Michael Madsen action star move that he does is when Syl is on the run and they're about to hunt her down and she's coming out in the car. He jumps on top of the car. I don't even know what he's doing there. He's not pursuing. He's not taking cover.
He's looking cool.
Okay, so now I disagree with you both wholeheartedly, and I'm going to try to think about why. In Reservoir Dogs, I think he plays crazy. He plays crazy really well because he'll cut a dude's ear off. In here, he's trying to be like ex-military, like mystery. And we have to know that he's proficient. But he's dropping lines like, if they brought me here, they're not taking her back alive. You know, shit like that I'm just like, oh my God. I wanted a John Cusack. You know, once we found out that John Cusack was a badass, I would have liked to have seen John Cusack in this role.
I thought they were going to make him the villain in the movie. That everybody else is going to be like, no, don't kill Syl. Like, Syl's good. We got to reason with her. I thought Dan was going to be like the hero, or like Laura would be the hero, where they're like, we have to reason with her and figure out what she wants. And maybe it's not a baby, but maybe a career. And we could get her some like education and then she could go get an office job and it'd be like, don't tell mom the babysitter's dead. But instead, he's not the villain. He's still a good dude. He's just trying to do his fucking job.
He is. And even though I like the speed of the exposition, that they get us there quick, something goes on with Syl that she becomes like a complicated, she's like, okay, I'm going to go through this giant plan. She's now an alien who's been here for like a day or two in LA. And she's like, I'm going to fill gasoline. I'm going to kidnap someone who looks like me in body type. I'm going to cut off her finger. I'm going to stick it in the door. I'm going to hit her. She goes and searches for a high voltage box. And then, of course, the missiles. All she had to do was change her hair color. In the end, that worked better than this giant fake, death.
Big D, you might have solved your own mystery here, because maybe the fact was that she's like, these cops keep figuring out what my next step is. I'm leaving too clear a trail. I'm going to mix things up. Give me your finger.
Okay, I'm going to erase that complaint. Syl was right. Syl was right. And that's why it worked. Good job, Syl.
Well, after cutting and dyeing her hair, Syl takes an attraction to Preston, having dreamt of him the previous night. After the team celebrates their apparent victory, she stalks them in their hotel. Arden, who is upset at being single, walks into his room to find Syl waiting there. They mate, which results in her instantly getting impregnated by him, and Syl kills him when he realizes who she is. Dan senses that Syl is in the hotel, and he alerts Preston, Laura, and the rest of the team.
This part of the movie has one of the best scenes that Michael Madsen maybe will ever do, which is that dream sequence where she walks in topless and he comes in and he, with the wind blowing, takes off his shirt and has on the wife beater underneath. It was pretty fantastic. But I do want to say here, you talk about like simple. I feel like it's kind of the Clark Kent effect in this part of the movie. Okay, so she dyes her hair brown because she sees the thing on TV where the woman dyes her hair and becomes a quote unquote new woman. But Natasha Henstridge looks exactly the same with brown hair. She's still like the most beautiful woman in the room. She's still dressed all sexy. You still notice her. And I feel like they saw enough of her to recognize that she's this gorgeous, beautiful being. I think that this part was a bit difficult to buy.
I don't think it's supposed to be a disguise. I think she's trying to give these guys plausible deniability. Like, oh, I didn't know it was her. Like, because they're just like, yeah, I know she's
got
an
brown
alien.
hair.
I'm going to fuck her anyway, though. Like, oh, yeah. Oh, shit. Is that Syl? I thought she was a blonde.
So as I was watching this movie, before I knew that Ash thought that Alfred Molina was hot, I found myself wondering, did his like manager come to him and be like, listen, don't even read the script. Sign on to this. He's like, why? You're going to have a sex scene with Natasha. Just take the role. Take the role. I picture him just accepting this role without even knowing what it was about.
Well, apparently she was really, really nervous because she'd never done a sex scene on screen before because this was her, her big break. And so he made her feel much better because he had only ever done one other sex scene, which was with a guy in some movie from 1987. And so he told her this. And so apparently she talked like really nicely about him. And I'm sorry, guys, listeners write in. I am team hashtag Alfred Molina used to be slightly sexy. I mean, he's not the guy that like you're going to, that walks by at the mall that you're going to be like, ooh, yeah, and fuck him, but like he's the one that you get to know, and he's probably like a super generous lover. Like there's something a little sexy there, right? Like guys like that have to work really hard, and that that's a good thing sometimes.
Yeah, I agree.
You agree?
No, nice guy. No. What I'm saying to you is that yes, nice guys have to work harder, just like nice girls have to work harder. I agree with that. I do agree.
Yeah.
That's why usually like average looking chicks and average looking dudes are generally nicer. Your level of beauty and your willingness and openness to like sexual depravity is polar opposites.
Ladies, I'll have you know I'm a strictly meat and potatoes kind of guy.
That's why you have the dildos in your house like we talked about last week.
Self-defense dildos.
And also one last complaint about how smart she is. Doesn't she realize at this point, the way she looks isn't like any normal other person? If Natasha was out in LA, she could find a mate instantly.
That is legitimately the plot of this fucking movie is she's walking around LA and can't get anybody who's down to fuck her that doesn't have something wrong with him.
Syl, you went through all the work to fake your death. They think you're dead. There are billions of men in the world. Just fucking leave and go fuck anybody else. The only way I can rationalize this is she saw Michael Madsen, being a tough guy and like a leader at the house when they discovered the body. And so now she's dreaming about him because she sees him as an alpha. Then when she can't get him, she's like, shit, I got to fuck the next thing that's around, which happens to be
the brains. She went for the brains rather than the brawn.
Alfred Molina.
The beta.
No, he's a Sigma. He's a Sigma male.
He's not a Sigma. He's a beta.
After Syl kills Arden, Alfred Molina, Press goes down in the garage and he gets out all these big guns. And I'm like, wait, you had flamethrowers and fucking like explosives this whole time? Why, Press, were you walking around with a fucking handgun this whole time? And this is a profound misunderstanding of firearms, I think, by Hollywood in general. So listeners, if you're out there, if you know you're going into a firefight or you're tracking down a killer alien, a handgun is bullshit. A handgun is a sidearm. It's a last ditch sort of weapon. It's somebody sprung up on you and you got to defend yourself and they're like within 3 feet of you, right? If you know you're hunting this thing down, where's your rifle? Press, I'm not believing in you here. Guys, if you don't own a rifle and you're going to be hunting down an alien, get yourself a rifle. And you can't say that these guys were trying to be discreet because there are helicopters shooting fucking missiles in the hills. Like, Press, bring out bigger guns, please.
Agreed.
Well, Syl morphs and escapes into the sewers where she kills Fitch. She then gives birth, and Dan finds her offspring in a cavern behind the sewers. The child morphs into alien form and attacks Dan, and he incinerates it. Press then kills Syl by blowing off her head, and Press, Dan, and Laura leave the area. The last scene shows a rat chewing on one of Syl's severed tentacles. It starts to mutate into a vicious beast, and then it devours another rat.
Okay, so obviously this movie would not be the same without Giger. And if you're a fan of Aliens, you know exactly the aesthetic we're talking about. They call it biomechanical. It is the combination of organic and mechanical. His designs are absolutely beautiful. And to talk about just strange coincidences that happen in life, probably 8 years ago, Vanessa, myself, her sister, a couple friends, we went to Switzerland for like 5 days and then took the train down and went to Italy. So one of the days, they're all like, hey, let's go to this town. It's called Gruyere. I'm like, all right, what's there? They're like, oh, there's a big cheese factory. There's a castle, some ruins. I'm like, oh, this is going to be great. Let's go do this, right? So we go to this like town, and you can tell it's a couple 100 years old. And there's some good restaurants. There's like the cheese place I talked about. And then I look over in the corner, and I'm like, what the hell is that? It was the Giger Museum and Bar, or in this little medieval like town. You would not believe it. So the museum has all like the relics from the movies, his designs. I'm going to put some of the pictures up on Twitter and Instagram so people can see them. Across the street, there's a bar. And it looks like if you had the bar in the Aliens movies, there were baby heads, like thousands of them embedded into the wall. There's the spine, crazy designs with these little, like, they look like almost like children, but with these metallic glasses, and they're pretending to be bullets. It's the female form with the pointy, like weaponized nipples. It is the craziest place ever. And I'm just so thankful that somehow we stumbled into this place. If you are ever in Gruyere, if this ever happens to you, you better go find that bar.
And I feel like Shat worlds are colliding here because Ash and I, doing Lovecraft Country, we talked about the Lovecraftian horror, which is, tentacles and creator mythology and twisted views of motherhood. Again, we get that with Ridley Scott with Alien, we get that with Giger, and even like John Carpenter. There's like this overall look that I absolutely love, and it is terrifying. There's something to me scarier about like boobs and vaginas and birth becoming monstrous than anything else becoming monstrous. And I don't know if that's meant to just scare men. Like, is it equally potent for women?
I mean, I'm not scared of vaginas and boobs, but definitely the birth thing. I mean, when I was pregnant with both of our kids, I would have like these horrible, like realistic nightmares of like birthing like these gross, like insanely like mutated beings, or like birthing a child that like killed me. Like, I think that it's a pretty common fear for people that are reproducing, because think about it, like you're throwing your DNA out into the world, and it's going to always be younger than you and as pretty as you once were but aren't anymore. And I mean, it's like this huge like power play. And so yeah, but not vaginas are not scary.
I think it's the combination of mechanical and human. So there's organic forms, but then there's also robotic. So I think it's the giving birth, but it's not of choice and it's not human. It's this very strange melding. You can see the influence of Giger throughout the entire movie, but no more than at the very end. The final chase scene to me went beyond homage to being just a complete ripoff of Aliens. When they go down into the sewers, and they've got the flamethrower now, Gene, all of a sudden. Okay, great time. It looks like Alien. It looks like Ripley and the Nostromo, them going through the corridors. You even get the alien hiding above and jumping down and grabbing somebody. It was just too close and spot on. I felt uninspired by that scene.
All it was missing was like a heartbeat monitor.
Yeah.
And a cat. Well, and this was nowhere near as scary as Alien, right? Like, I mean, this is clearly a B film, and I'm fine with that because I love B films. I think that they're fun. I think that they have a place in cinema. But my one request of a B movie is to at least be consistent with your plot lines, because here you've got Syl that took a month for her to basically be a toddler in the opener. My question is, she fucks Alfred Molina. She both gestates all 9 months, has the baby, and then the baby turns itself into a toddler all in 20 minutes. Like, I mean, that kind of rushed lack of consistency I thought was a little bit of a letdown at the end of this movie.
Is someone unfairly judging your sci-fi movie? Call 1-800-SHAT-LAW for Gene Lyons, sci-fi lawyer. Ash, we have never seen a natural insemination from a human to a human-alien hybrid. We don't know what her eggs are like. They could be completely different. And this kid isn't the same thing that she was because it's human mating with human-alien hybrid. So the outcome is totally unpredictable. I wouldn't nitpick on this.
Don't call the police on me for this, and don't notify the authorities. But as the movie, she gives birth, you guys hit on it, the child stands up, and I'm like, oh, look, okay, it's a kid covered in afterbirth. It's weirdly strange. And then the kid is standing there completely naked. Is this legal? I thought if you have even like a photo of a child, could you legally do that?
Does nobody remember the Nirvana Nevermind album cover?
Oh, shit, you're right.
You definitely can do it. I mean, they show naked little girls all the time. You send us naked pictures of your kid all the time.
I do not. That's not true.
I mean, that's why I've been through like 3 different phones. I burn them in the backyard.
Right. It's like, oh shit, Big D's texting
topless.
again.
She's topless. I do not ever show bottomless photos. She's topless. There's nothing there.
I have to go back and watch it because I totally missed the kid dick. Ash, did you notice it?
I did, and I didn't think it was that big of a deal because he's just a little baby. They didn't sexualize it.
I don't think they did either, but just crop it. I don't need to see it. It didn't add to the role.
Well, you wanted to see her titties the whole movie. I mean, I think they're just,
She's a grown-ass woman. Yes, I don't need to see baby dick.
He just was born. What do you expect him to do? Be born and find like a loincloth in the bowels of the sewer?
No. Show him on all four.
On all fours? That would have been
Show him on all four.
Oh, you want the naked boy on all fours.
Jump crawling around.
Got it.
This is slowly getting out of control.
Ash, you labeled this a B movie, but I do want to point out that it did have one profound moment. It just took like an hour and a half or whatever to get there. And that's, in the end, it was this point from Laura Baker. So Laura Baker, by the way, doesn't do much in this movie other than flirt with press. Like, she's a very underused character. Ironically, she's like the most sciencey of the scientists there, but she does have one surprisingly profound line at the end. So they're talking about the fact that, Syl was, half human and half something else. And Laura says, I wonder which half of Syl was the predator. And I was like, fuck. This whole time, we just assumed that alien DNA made Syl the killer. But when you think about it, all the drives that they're describing in this movie, like procreation, fighting off, competition, all that stuff, impulses, that's all stuff that's understood by scientists who understand human drives, right? Not necessarily the alien drives. And I'm like, shit, what if the human was the bad part of her? The alien part wasn't meant as a weapon at all.
Gene, I totally agree with you, okay? And this happens sometimes when we record. When, as we're having the conversation, we will realize something that we thought was a mistake actually may have been something deeper. I was going to complain that the end was complete shit. Dan has spotted the child, the naked child who is now grabbing rats and eating them. Yet he doesn't mention it to the rest of the team when they get out. So I thought, Dan, what the fuck are you doing? You're going to leave him up there. Now, is it possible that Dan, who is an empath, who can feel, did he do it intentionally, let the child live because he had compassion for it and he realized what you just said, Gene, was true?
Dan set the kid on fire.
And he goes,
he blasted him with a fucking flamethrower and killed him.
How'd I miss that? Really?
Yeah.
Because the kid looked exactly like his mom in alien form. So it looked like she just got torched twice. The littler one was the kid. He said he was like on top of him and he just blasted right through his like entire chest cavity with fire and threw him in the water.
Oh, I thought that, okay. Again, you see? So what I actually did was read something into it.
And of course, press dismisses the whole thing by being like, well, I hope it was the dead half. And then they just go up the ladder and the movie's over.
Mm-hmm.
I've always talked about movies where I'm like, why do we need this end scene where they all say bye to each other and have hugs? Now I know why, because if you don't realize the movie's over and it's kind of weird. And speaking of over, that brings us to the end of it. What?
I still can't believe I missed that. I'm going to have to go back and watch that. Are you sure?
I'm 100% positive.
He was averting his eyes from baby dick.
But wait, so he ate the rat. He was human.
Yeah.
And then at what point did he flip?
So he's up on that ledge and he morphs into the alien form. Then he jumps down on Dan. Dan shoots him with a flamethrower and then kicks him off into the water. Then Dan is hanging off a cliff, which, by the way, Forrest Whitaker is not hanging off a cliff for that long.
No way.
Or doing a fucking pull-up. And then Syl attacks. And then Press kills her.
I thought it was all Syl. That explains it. Okay.
Well, we're a very professional podcast here. Now is the time for our Shat score. Our wipe score is our way of telling you how many wipes this movie takes to get off your respective butts. 0 wipes is a perfect score, or at least a consensus perfect score. Natasha Henstridge's boobs, they are immaculate. They are perfect. I bet you they are just every bit as amazing today as they were in 1995. Mm-hmm. 5 wipes is an absolute mess of a movie. It is nasty. It is an Amtrak chrysalis just spewing goo, eating up conductors, pulsating, yet being oddly sexual. Ash, we'll start with you. How many wipes do you give Species?
So like I've said, I love B sci-fi films. I think they're the best. And this is, a decent one. I just wish, I did feel like this one took itself a little seriously. I love the premise. I actually thought, strangely, Natasha Henstridge, for this to be her first movie, yes, she's beautiful to look at, but she was also pretty decent in it. I thought she did a good job. But I do think, as we've kind of broken down in these last buckets here, that it fizzles a little bit. I don't think it ever really goes further than this woman that's misunderstood whether she's alien, whether she's not. She just wants a baby, but why? She wants to fuck, but why, other than have a baby? I just think there's a lot of answers they could have given us. And there's this really great part in the last part of the movie where she asks the girl that she's about to kill and assume her identity, who am I? What am I? They haven't told me. And I think the movie might have been a bit better if they would have just answered those questions just a little bit, rather than just giving us more of her immaculate boobs. So I don't think it's a perfect movie. I think it's a little below average because of all of that. So I'm giving it a little below average score of 3 wipes.
All right, that's 3 wipes from Ash. Ash, I agree with you for the most part. I wasn't bored for a single second while watching this movie, and so I have to give it high marks for entertaining me. And after all, it's okay for a movie to not be that brainy as long as it's fun to watch, and this was very fun to watch. But it was also very formulaic. They fit a very Hollywood blockbuster. You assemble the team, you have the threat. Why is the threat doing what it's doing? We'll give you a half-hearted explanation of that. And then we're going to have some big explosions, and we're going to go through, a major American city. We'll pay a lot of money for a great cast, but kind of underutilize them. The plot did meander a bit at the end, and it was cheesy, but that's not always a bad thing. Sometimes cheesy makes the movie a little more fun, and all those moments where we were laughing at Michael Madsen, where we were laughing at Forrest Whitaker, when we were marveling at how they justified putting tits on screen, like, that's okay. It makes the movie, to me, a little more lovable, and so for me, it's a 2-wipe movie.
So, Gene, for me, I think the first 2/3 of the movie is a 1 wipe. It is fast. It is well acted. It's entertaining. They don't waste any of our time. But the last 2/3, like you guys have said. So I found myself wondering what could have been. I really would have rather had them somehow don't give birth to the baby.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let some way that she dies that leaves it ambiguous. That would have solved Ashley's time, like how quickly that she's growing now at this point, that it doesn't match. It's not consistent. I would have wanted like a Terminator end sequence, a time jump. Almost like where you see Sarah O'Connor. I did it again. Sarah Connor, where you see Sarah Connor. Okay.
The Irish Terminator.
Yes. If you want to go back and listen to our T2, I keep calling him O'Connor. It is not O'Connor. Let her show us time has passed. She's pregnant and she's now assimilated and she's out in the world. That would leave an ending that would be perfectly set up for part 2. So for me, not a 1 wipe, but it is a 2 wipe. It is better than average. And the whole movie, regardless, was entertaining throughout.
All right. So that's 2 wipes from Big D, 2 wipes from me, and 3 wipes from Ash Schlafly. That gives us an average wipe score of 2.3 repeating wipes for Species.
So, Gene, with a score of 2.33 repeating, that now ranks Species in the 100 spot. It is tied with Rocky IV, Point Break, Casino, and Ronin. So I think it feels right with the exception of Casino.
Yeah, Roger's screaming somewhere out there in the ether about Casino right now.
I mean, this is as good as Point Break. I think this is right up there with Point Break. Yeah, I think that's perfect.
I totally agree. So it's almost directly right in the middle of our almost 200 movies.
It's like one boob on each side of 100. 100 looks like two boobs and a boner.
It does, which Natasha Henstridge's boobs gave many a people.
I can attest to that.
Yeah, only when she was in the mutated form, though, right? Right, Big D?
Either way, I don't care. Seriously.
Your women, they got to look scared or horny and be slightly mutated.
No, Gene, are you telling me that there wasn't something okay, she's not trying to kill you.
Yeah.
She does not have the tentacles coming out of her mouth or her nipples.
Okay.
Are you telling me that if you ran into her after a golf night and you were single, you wouldn't have been down for that?
Are we talking about when she's blinking with reptilian eyes and is making rubber ducky noises?
Yeah, she's an alien, but let's just say she's nice. Okay, it's that alien form, but she's nice to you. You're not down for that?
I don't think he cares if she's nice to him.
Big D, I've never even slept with anyone who wasn't white.
Oh, wow.
Fucking racist. You don't like aliens? I'm all about interspecies. I'm good for it. Please write in if you would do it too. I don't want to feel like the total just pervert.
I would, hang out with her. I'd like to look at her boobs. They really are beautiful. I'm very much on the heterosexual end of like the Kinsey scale, but it's like art work. And I disagree that there's not perfect boobs. Tom didn't believe me. He didn't watch this one. And so I brought him a picture and I was like, look at these. Like, they're amazing. And I was like zooming in and he's like, yeah, they're pretty good. I was like, no, but like, they're just amazing. He's like, yeah, they're pretty good. So
I'm just imagining Ash makes Tom breakfast on like a Sunday morning. And after he gets through the eggs and toast at the bottom of the plate, it's just Natasha Henstridge's boobs.
Make it a happy plate. Get through your eggs and you'll have a nice surprise. It's a good idea.
On that note, Big D, what movie are we doing next week?
I can't lie, and I know I say this often. There are movies that are made for Shat the Movies. This movie that's coming up next week has been something that I've been excited for almost a year since this commission came in. And anyone who just hears this description, you're going to know what it is, and you just should be like, yes, fuck yes. Yes, it's about time. And this movie was commissioned by Thomas C. It tells the story of a man who is secretly a spy, but thought by his family to be a dull salesman. Harry Tasker is tracking down nuclear missiles in the possession of Islamic jihadist Aziz. Harry's mission is complicated when he realizes his neglected wife, Helen, is contemplating an affair with Simon, a used car salesman who claims to be a spy. When Aziz kidnaps Harry and Helen, the secret agent must save the world and patch up his marriage at the same time. Commissioned by Thomas C., came out in 1994, directed by James Cameron. And this movie is a blockbuster. It made $380 million on a $100 million budget, and this should be a good one.
I have never seen this.
Oh, you're in for a treat.
Yeah, I think this has come up more than any other movie on other Shat recordings.
Has to.
We reference this thing all the goddamn time, so I'm super excited. So thank you, Thomas C., for commissioning that. Thank you, Patrick, for commissioning Species, and all the commissioners who make this podcast possible. We really, really do appreciate it. It means a lot to us. We don't say it enough. That concludes this week's episode of Shat the Movies. Be sure to follow us on social media and share with a friend. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram at Shat the Movies. You can email us, host@shatthemovies.com, and support the podcast by shopping our Amazon affiliate link, completing a free anonymous survey to help attract advertisers, buying our merch, or commissioning your own movie. Find all that information by visiting our website, shatthemovies.com. Also, you can check out our sister podcast, Shat on TV, where Ash and I are reviewing TV series such as Lovecraft Country, Westworld, True Detective, Taboo, Game of Thrones, Watchmen, and currently American Gods. You can find all that information on our website, shatontv.com. Wherever fine podcasts can be found, including iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe, and if you stop by iTunes, please leave a 5-star review. That helps the podcast grow. And finally, one big ask for all of you guys. If you are not watching us on Twitch, but you would like to support the podcast at no cost to you, go to shatthemovies.com/Twitch, find our Twitch channel and subscribe. You can use your Amazon Prime subscription to subscribe at no cost to you. And that actually helps us out financially. You don't have to watch. And it's important that you not just follow, but subscribe. Really key there. Lots of you guys have been following us, and that's really great. But the subscription actually gives us funds, and that helps us make more programming for you. On behalf of my co-hosts, Big D, Dick Ebert, Ash Schlafly, and the King Bee, I'm Gene Lyons. Be sure to join us next week for the following movie.
How'd it go at the convention, honey?
You were the big hit of the show.
It's fantastic. I love the computer business.
For 15 years, Harry Tasker's been leading a double life.
Mr. President, one of our best men is inside.
Transmitting now.
Right on time.
I don't believe I've met you before.
Rehnquist. Harry Rehnquist.
Listen to the following code word. Helen. Helen.
Now, they're about to collide.
What's your exit strategy?
I'm gonna walk right out of that front gate.
May I see your invitation, please?
Sure. Here's my invitation.
Oh, yeah, that worked good. Right out the old front gate.
Can you back a second?
Mr. Tasker's office.
Hi, it's Helen. Is he in?
Harry's in a sales meeting, Mrs. Tasker.
It's not like he's saving the world or anything.
I see this is the problem with terrorists. They're really inconsiderate when it comes to people's schedules.
Could you press the button for the top floor, please?
Hi, Helen. Harry forgot something back at the office.
Whenever I can't sleep, I just ask him to tell me about his day. 6 seconds and I'm out.
Maybe it's just that you're not in touch with your feminine side.
Harry! What were you doing there?
You wouldn't believe me if I told you.
You know what this is? It's a snow cone maker. Is it a water heater?
From James Cameron, director of Aliens and T2, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
It's a Soviet Mirv 6 from an SS-22N launch vehicle.
I married Rambo.
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Have you ever killed anyone?
Yeah, but they were all bad.
True Lies.
What can I say? I'm a spy.
Harry Tasker is track. It tells this. Stop.
It's just, it's not that you're making mistakes. It's that you go.
It's your soul music sound like.
It's like last time you're like,
Okay.
you're not going to do this tonight. You're not going to read like that.
You're not going to do
Harry,
this. Come on.
Harry Tasker.
It's like Cookie Monster.